They're going to try and blame the fires in Los Angeles. They'll probably try and blame us for that. When I was president, I demanded that this guy, the governor, accept the water coming from the north, from way up in Canada and the north. It flows down through, right through Los Angeles. I mean, massive millions and millions of gallons of water a week, probably, I think even a day. Massive amounts coming out from the mountains, from the melts. Yeah. And even without it, even during the summer, it's a natural flow of water. They would have had so much water, they wouldn't have known what to do with it. You would have never had the fires. People would have been able to sprinkle their lawns and everything else. The problem is it's so dry. It was always so dry there. And it's just a mess. They could have maintained their forests. And
this is what the president-elect is doing with his free time. Going on television to spread straight disinformation about the LA wildfires, all because California is a blue state and therefore doesn't satisfy his litmus test to actually give a shit. Now, so that we're clear, Trump has concocted out of whole cloth this idea that Southern California isn't accepting water from the northern portion of the state. It doesn't exist. It is imaginary. From the time Trump hears some idea from some idiot on Newsmax or the buffet line at Mar-a-Lago until it actually leaves his own lips, it's probably gone through 16 different iterations in his head, to the point where he now thinks that there's some spigot that Newsom refused to open up, allowing the water to flow to the southern portion of California. Not only does it sound stupid on its face, it really is that stupid. In fact, I asked the California fire marshal for his response to this exact issue, and here's what he had to say. Donald Trump suggested onto Truth Social that Gavin Newsom should have opened some sort of spigot from Northern California to Southern California to allow water to flow. Can you speak on the legitimacy of that claim?
I don't want to get into the politics of the president or the future president, but it is so important to note that every community has a different water system. In Pacific Palisades, their water system is really based on storage tanks and reservoirs. And with the extreme amount of homes that caught on fire in the early hours, every hydrant was running and water was being used faster than water could be replenished. But there is no spigot from Northern California to Pacific Palisades that could have kept up with this firefight. Lots of people saying, well, why aren't you using water right out of the ocean? And again, it's just not that simple. But firefighters, we use other tactics. It's not just water that help us battle these fires. We're using mechanical equipment like bulldozers, chainsaws, and other efforts. But the governor leaned in and he had us push forward well over 100 water tender trucks that brought in water to that area. So not only did the water supply able to work as the best as it could to keep up with the need, but we also brought water in from other areas. Our helicopters, once we could fly aircraft, could pick up water from neighboring reservoirs or even swimming pools and drop water on it. But again, let's come back to the magnitude of these fires. Again, it's not just one home on fire. It's not just two homes. It's thousands of homes on fire at the same time. There really is no water supply that's going to be able to keep up with that. And that is, again, where we go into rescue mode first, structure defense second.
Quote, there is no spigot from Northern California to the Pacific Palisades. And look, we expect Trump to lie. That's already baked into the cake. I don't think anybody here needs me to pull out smelling salts because Donald Trump opted to be dishonest. But what's more egregious here is that he is actively spreading these lies during a crisis. He is exacerbating the dangers of an ongoing tragedy, all because he's apparently too stupid to know whether or not there's a faucet allowing water into SoCal, or he knows full well that there's no faucet. He just doesn't care because scoring the political points is worth the added danger that he's causing. And of course, because the fish rots from the head, now the rest of the GOP has taken this as permission to shit on their favorite punching bag, California. Members of the Republican Party have now decided that with their majority, they're going to condition aid to California by trying to extract political concessions.
Are you open to providing aid to California without any conditions at all?
I think we've got to have a serious conversation about that. Obviously, there's been water resource mismanagement, forest management mistakes, all sorts of problems. And it does come down to leadership, and it appears to us that state and local leaders were derelict in their duty in many respects. So that's something that has to be factored in. I think there should probably be conditions on that date. That's my personal view. We'll see what the consensus is. I haven't had a chance to socialize that with any of the members over the weekend because we've all been very busy, but it'll be part of the discussion for sure.
What about the debt limit increase? What about tying the debt limit increase to it?
There's some discussion about that, but we'll see where it goes.
Okay, first of all, fuck you. If you are using this moment to pour salt in the wound of the people who've lost everything so that you can squeeze out some political concessions like the debt ceiling, fuck you, you ghoul. And second of all people, does Mike Johnson of the state of Louisiana really want to set the precedent of conditioning disaster relief? Really, of all states, the Louisiana guy wants to establish this precedent? Granted, he's probably making a gamble that the Democrats would never do what he is doing right now, and frankly, he's right, because we are not psychopaths who extort people when they're at their lowest point. But because that asymmetry exists, Mike Johnson knows that he can gleefully strut around and threaten California, knowing full well that his colleagues on the left aren't made of the same subhuman bile that exists on the right for him to be able to do that. He also knows that if a Democrat ever did do what the Republicans are doing right now, they would get eviscerated for it by their little foot soldiers in right-wing media. And of course, legacy media would take the bait. And yet, where's the outrage on legacy media now? Apparently, if Republicans aren't worried, then our country's mainstream media isn't worried either. This is what it looks like when the entire media in this country takes its cues from their assignment editors on the right. In fact, that asymmetry was made clear on Fox News by Jessica Tarlov.
I hate that Governor Newsom had to create a new landing page on his site to put out the real facts about what the budgets have looked like, doubling the size of the air fleet. Forest management budget increased 10 times. I understand it got a little wordy about the San Ynez Reservoir, but the truth is that reservoir was offline through February 2025, no matter what. This wasn't an unpreparedness thing. There was a tear in the cover that they had to repair. It's a normal maintenance thing. So yes, would it have been better if it had been filled? Sure, but that's not because of mismanagement. That's maintenance that has to happen. But
the maintenance didn't happen in time. I mean,
but it was always. But it's not behind schedule. Is the point? This isn't because they neglected it.
There were also a number of time is of the essence in this contract.
Okay,
if they don't have that reservoir, that involved the Palisades.
I totally understand.
And so it's like saying we're not going to have cops where we know there's going to be a crime.
Well, you don't know that there's going to be a crime. This fire was predicted 5 days out, not months out when it went offline. The Orange County fire chief, the LA County fire chief, the head of FEMA, even Elon Musk, who went to a briefing and heard from a fire command, who have all said that this wasn't about a lack of preparedness, that this was because it was unprecedented. If you have 100 miles per hour winds, so much so that the choppers can't fly for 27 hours, which was a crucial element of this, that it was too windy to be able to do it, then you can't stand there and blame them like this. I mean, these quotes are crazy, saying, firefighters have never seen these kinds of winds. The fires were, quote, unstoppable. Mother Nature owned us. And then you hear Speaker Johnson, who was just walking through the Capitol and it was being interviewed, talking about aid and disaster relief. And he said that he thinks it should be conditioned on California changing their ways. If Joe Biden, who, by the way, has signed every major disaster declaration right away, given everyone the capacity aid that they are asking for, that he even actually wanted to put more money into the FEMA budget, and the Republicans took it down several $1 billion. If he had said, you know what, Louisiana, I'm not so into your politics. You should do things differently. Or Georgia, or any other conservative state, or Florida. I mean, he has been so bipartisan in this. It is not the moment to say that this is going to be attached to something conditional about you doing this the way that I think you should do.
Okay. So look, per usual, Republicans are entering office looking to govern in the most extreme way possible. What they're forgetting is that there are a lot of Republican voters in California. There are a lot of Republican House seats in California. And Republican officials are making the case for themselves just days into the 119th Congress that they should not be given power again if they're putting cheap political wins above helping their own constituents when they need it most. In their thirst for power, the Republican officials have forgotten that Americans have memories and we vote. Before you go, just a quick note, if you'd like to see more of my content, which is always free of advertising, sponsorships, and paywalls, please make sure to subscribe to this channel using the subscribe button right here on the screen. And if you'd like to support my work even further, you can grab a copy of my instant #1 New York Times selling book, Shameless, available for sale right now. That link is also on the screen. Thanks so much for watching.